The wedding dress hung like a specter of perfection against the backdrop of the opulent suite, its ivory silk reflecting the tension in the room. Emma stood across from Alex, the wedding planner whose reputation for orchestrating fairy tale weddings was as renowned as his striking presence. In the dim light, his eyes flickered with a mix of empathy and unspoken concern, cutting through the veneer of celebration that surrounded them. "Emma," he murmured, his voice a soothing contrast to the chaos of her thoughts. "I need you to tell me what's really going on." She opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her throat, tangled with the shock of her brother's message. The family fortune was gone, siphoned away in a betrayal too colossal to comprehend, leaving her adrift on the brink of ruin. The luxury hotel buzzed with the anticipation of a wedding that was suddenly under threat, as fragile as the delicate lace that adorned her dress. And amidst the whirlwind of impending vows and glittering guests, two truths loomed: the theft that had shattered her world, and the undeniable pull she felt towards the man standing before her. "I can't lose this," she finally whispered, her voice a fragile thread in the storm. "Not now." Alex stepped forward, his presence steadying. "Then let's not," he said, a promise woven into every syllable. But as the clock ticked towards the ceremony and the weight of stolen wealth pressed down upon her, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Not just of a new life, but of a journey she never expected to take, one that would unravel secrets, test loyalties, and awaken desires she'd never dared acknowledge. The opulence of the Grand Astoria Hotel shimmered under the golden glow of 1,000 chandeliers, casting a dreamy, almost surreal spell over the guests gathered for the wedding of the season. Emma stood at the edge of the ballroom, her champagne flute untouched, absorbed in the spectacle around her. It was a celebration of love wrapped in layers of luxury and precision, each detail a testament to the genius of Alex, the renowned wedding planner whose reputation was as sparkling as the diamonds that adorned the bride. Emma marveled at how Alex had transformed the space into an ethereal garden of romance. Cascading white roses, twinkling fairy lights, and the soft strains of a live quartet created an atmosphere that whispered tales of fairy tales and forever promises. She felt a pang of envy mingled with admiration, a longing for a life where such beauty wasn't confined to these fleeting moments. But the illusion of bliss was a fragile thing. As she moved through the crowd, exchanging pleasantries with faces that blurred into one another, a soft chime from her phone interrupted the evening's enchantment. Her heart skipped a beat as she glanced at the screen, seeing a message from her brother, the words stark and unyielding: "It's all gone, Emma, every cent." Her world tilted, the ground beneath her feet vanishing into an abyss of disbelief. She staggered slightly, the laughter and music around her fading into a distant echo. Her family's fortune, an inheritance of generations built with sweat and sacrifice, had been stolen, vanished like a mirage in the harsh light of reality. The news struck her like a physical blow, leaving her breathless and adrift in a sea of confusion and despair. How could this happen? How could something so stable, so foundational, dissolve in an instant? The runes spun as she forced herself to breathe, to remain composed, but the facade of calm was thin and brittle. Alex approached her then, his presence calming yet commanding. His smile was warm, tinged with the satisfaction of a job executed flawlessly, but it dimmed as he noticed the turmoil in her eyes. "Emma, are you all right?" She forced a smile, a mask to conceal the storm inside. "Just a bit overwhelmed," she managed, her voice a whisper of its usual strength. He nodded, concern etched into his features, but the demands of the evening pulled him away before she could say more. Alone again, Emma wandered to the edge of the dance floor, the joyous couples blurring into a kaleidoscope of colors and movement. She felt like a ghost, untethered and invisible, drifting through a life that no longer felt like hers. The illusion of bliss was shattered, leaving in its wake a stark, unforgiving reality. Stripped of her family's wealth, Emma was left standing on the precipice of an unknown future, devastated and directionless. The laughter and music continued to swirl around her, but she felt the chill of isolation setting in. In that moment, surrounded by the splendor of a celebration that was not her own, Emma realized she was embarking on a journey she never expected, one fraught with uncertainty, but also the possibility of discovering who she truly was without the safety net of her family's fortune. As the evening drew to a close, Emma lingered by the grand windows, looking out at the city that seemed so vast and indifferent. Shadows danced across her face, mingling with the tears she refused to shed. The illusion of bliss had crumbled, but in its place lay the fragile hope of something new, something real. The Grand Astoria Hotel, once a testament to elegance, now felt like a labyrinth of Emma's unraveling certainties. Her reflection in the gilded mirror at the end of the corridor was a mere specter of the woman she once knew. The eyes staring back were shadowed with unspoken fears, the smile a ghostly remnant of faded confidence. As she reached out to steady herself against the glass, the subtle cracks splintered across the surface, each fissure a reminder of the fragile state of her existence. Emma's thoughts spiraled back to the devastating text from her brother, the echo of, "It's all gone," reverberating in her mind like a haunting refrain. Trust, once a steadfast pillar, now felt like a distant dream. Her heart, a fortress built on the foundation of her family's legacy, was vulnerable, laid bare by the betrayal of unseen hands. Her reverie was broken by the soft footfalls of Alex approaching, his presence a blend of genuine concern and the effortless charm that had captivated so many. "Emma," he spoke gently, his voice a soothing balm in the chaos of her thoughts. "I know something's wrong. You don't have to pretend with me." His words, sincere and unguarded, chipped away at her defenses. Yet the fear of vulnerability, of exposing the depths of her turmoil, kept her lips sealed. Emma shifted her gaze to the broken mirror, the fractured lines reflecting her inner conflict. I just need some time," she whispered, her voice barely rising above the quiet hum of the hotel. Alex nodded, his eyes filled with an empathy that seemed to transcend their brief acquaintance. "I understand," he replied, his hand brushing lightly against hers, a fleeting touch, yet imbued with unspoken promises of support. "But if you need someone to talk to, I'm here." In the silence that followed, Emma felt a pull towards him, a magnetic draw that both comforted and terrified her. How could she let someone in when her world was crumbling? The thought of leaning on another, even one as kind as Alex, was a risk she wasn't sure she could afford. As they stood together, the world outside the window seemed vast and indifferent, a reflection of her own turbulent emotions. The city lights twinkled like distant stars, oblivious to her plight, yet offering a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. "Thank you," she finally said, her voice steadier now. "I appreciate it, truly." Alex smiled, a warm, genuine curve of his lips that momentarily dispelled the shadows clinging to her thoughts. "The offer stands," he said softly, before stepping back, allowing her the space she needed. Emma watched him go, his figure melding into the opulent surroundings of the hotel. As the echoes of his footsteps faded, she turned once more to the shattered mirror, tracing a finger along one of the cracks. It was a symbol of her fractured reality, yet within its broken lines, she caught a glimpse of resilience, a reminder that even shattered pieces could reflect light. In that moment, Emma resolved to confront her fears, to navigate the uncertain path ahead with courage. The journey would not be easy, but perhaps with time, trust could be rebuilt, friendships forged anew amidst the ruins of her old life. And maybe, just maybe, Alex would play a part in that rebuilding, a steadfast ally in the storm of her transformation. The air in Emma's study was thick with tension, as if the room itself held its breath, waiting for the truth to reveal itself. Sunlight filtered through the lace curtains, casting intricate patterns on the floor, an ironic reminder of the tangled web Emma was determined to unravel. Her eyes scanned over the documents spread before her, letters, bank statements, and emails, each a puzzle piece in her family's financial ruin. Among the names that kept resurfacing, one stood out with an unwelcome familiarity: Richard, a family friend and confidant since childhood. The thought of his betrayal twisted in Emma's gut like a knife. She remembered his laughter at family dinners, the warmth in his eyes that now felt like a mask concealing deceit. Emma's fingers trembled as she traced the signature on a suspicious contract, her heart heavy with the weight of suspicion. Could it really be him? Someone so trusted, so woven into the fabric of her life, now a potential architect of her family's downfall. Her musings were interrupted by the soft chime of her phone. A message from Alex appeared, inviting her to a gala he was organizing that evening. Despite the storm of emotions swirling within her, Emma felt a flicker of something else, a longing for distraction, for solace in the company of someone whose sincerity she did not yet question. That evening, the gala unfolded with all the splendor the Grand Astoria was known for, its ballroom a sea of elegance and shimmering lights. Emma arrived in a sleek, midnight blue gown, her hair cascading in soft waves. As she entered, her eyes found Alex across the room, effortlessly charming as he greeted guests, his presence a beacon of warmth amidst the opulent surroundings. Emma approached him, and as he turned, their eyes met with a connection that seemed to defy the chaos around them. "You made it," Alex said, his smile genuine, a balm to her frayed nerves. "I needed a change of scenery," Emma replied, trying to keep her voice light, though her thoughts were still tangled with the day's discoveries. As the evening progressed, Alex led Emma onto the dance floor, the music a gentle waltz that wrapped around them like a whispered promise. In his arms, Emma felt a sense of calm she hadn't experienced in days. Their movements were fluid, synchronized, a silent conversation unfolding between them as they moved. "You seem distant," Alex noted softly, his eyes searching hers. "Is everything all right?" Emma hesitated, the weight of her suspicions pressing heavily on her. Yet, in Alex's gaze, she found an anchor, a reason to trust. "I'm just trying to piece things together," she admitted, her voice barely a murmur above the music. "If you ever need help, you know I'm here," Alex offered, his sincerity cutting through her defenses. Emma nodded, a small but significant gesture of acceptance. As they danced, she felt the barriers she'd built beginning to lower, brick by brick. The trust she extended to Alex was fragile, like the gossamer threads of a spider's web, but it was a start, an offering of faith in a world where trust had become a rare commodity. The dance ended too soon, yet its impact lingered as they stepped off the floor. Emma knew the path ahead was fraught with challenges, but with each step she took alongside Alex, she felt a little less alone, a little more ready to face the deception threatening her family's legacy. As the night drew to a close, Emma stood by the grand windows of the ballroom, gazing out at the city that now held new possibilities. The reflection staring back at her was one of resilience, a woman ready to confront the shadows of betrayal with newfound strength. And beside her, Alex was more than just a figure of support. He was a partner in this intricate dance of deception and trust. The morning was deceptively calm, the kind of morning that lulled people into a false sense of security. But for Emma, the tranquility was a mere facade, a thin veil over the chaos that threatened to engulf her family. Her heart pounded with a mix of dread and determination as she prepared to confront Richard. The family study, once a haven of warmth and laughter, now felt cold and unwelcoming. Richard stood by the fireplace, his familiar silhouette etched against the dim light. Emma paused at the doorway, gathering her courage like a cloak before stepping into the room. "Emma," Richard greeted her with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, his voice steady, too steady. She took a deep breath, her voice unwavering despite the storm inside her. "We need to talk, Richard. I found something troubling." His brows furrowed a flicker of confusion, or was it guilt? Crossed his face. "Troubling?" "These," Emma said, thrusting the documents towards him. "Your signatures on contracts that led to our financial ruin. How could you do this to us, to my family?" A silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Richard's eyes darted to the papers, then to Emma, a shadow of something dark flitting across his expression. "Emma, I had no choice," he finally said, his voice a whisper of its usual confidence. "I was pressured, threatened." Emma's heart ached with betrayal, the weight of his words crushing her chest. "You should have come to us, we could have helped you. Instead, you chose to betray us." Richard's face crumpled, an image of a man broken by his own actions. "I know, and I'm sorry. but I didn't think—" "No, you didn't," Emma cut him off, her voice laced with a mix of anger and disappointment. "You didn't think about the consequences, about what this would do to us." Her words hung in the air like a judgment passed. As she turned to leave, the reality of her fractured family settled heavily on her shoulders. Richard's confession was a bitter victory, revealing the cracks in the foundation of trust she'd once taken for granted. Later, as Emma walked home from the confrontation, the streets seemed to echo her turmoil, every step a reminder of the betrayal she now carried within her. When she finally arrived, her mother and brother were waiting, their faces etched with worry and confusion. "What happened?" her brother asked, his voice tinged with hope that perhaps, somehow, things could be fixed. Emma recounted the confrontation, each word deepening the rift within their family. As she spoke, she saw the shift in her mother's eyes. From disbelief to heartbreak, the betrayal cutting through them all. Amidst the emotional upheaval, Alex's text came again, a beacon of support. "I'm here if you need anything," he'd written, and Emma felt a small semblance of relief. Meeting Alex later that evening, she found herself drawn to the quiet strength he exuded. They walked through the city, the night air cool against the heat of her emotions. "I confronted him," Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex nodded, his gaze understanding, as if he could see the battle scars left on her heart. "And how are you holding up?" "I'm not sure," Emma admitted, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "I feel lost, betrayed, but determined." They stopped by a fountain, the water's gentle cascade a soothing backdrop to their conversation. "You know," Alex started, his voice thoughtful, "there's something you should know about me too." Emma looked at him, the vulnerability in his eyes mirroring her own. "What is it?" "Before I became a wedding planner, I was involved in something similar," he confessed, a hint of regret in his tone. "I worked with people who weren't always on the right side of things." The revelation was a shock, yet not entirely unexpected. Emma felt a strange sense of kinship in his honesty, a reflection of her own struggles. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because," Alex said, taking her hand, "I want you to know that I've been where you are, and I'm here now to help you navigate through it." Emma squeezed his hand, the gesture a silent acknowledgement of their shared burdens. In the midst of her family's turmoil, Alex had become an unexpected ally, a partner in facing the shadows of betrayal. As they stood together, the city lights twinkling like stars above them, Emma realized that even amidst broken promises and fractured trust, there was still hope. Hope in the form of new beginnings and the strength to rebuild what once seemed lost. The echoes of betrayal might linger, but in Alex, Emma found a promise unbroken, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The sky was a tapestry of gray, swirling clouds, a mirror reflecting the turmoil within Emma's heart. The storm was brewing, both outside and inside, a relentless reminder of the precarious balance her life had become. As she stood by her window, watching the first drops of rain splatter against the glass, her mind was a tempest of thoughts, each one crashing into the next. The afternoon had been a revelation, a shattering of illusions that left her exposed and raw. Richard's confession still echoed in her ears, a bitter melody of regret and betrayal. She had wanted to believe in the goodness of those around her, to cling to the remnants of trust she had left, but reality had a cruel way of tearing down such facades. Emma's phone buzzed, pulling her back to the present. Alex's name flashed on the screen, a beacon amidst the storm. She hesitated, her finger hovering over the screen, before finally swiping to answer. "Emma?" Alex's voice was a gentle balm, soothing the ragged edges of her emotions. "Hi, Alex," she replied, her voice barely masking the weariness she felt. "I was thinking, maybe we could talk, somewhere quiet where the world can't intrude," he suggested, his words a lifeline thrown into her chaotic sea. She found herself agreeing, the need for connection outweighing the fear of vulnerability. They met at a small cafe nestled in the heart of the city, its warm lights a stark contrast to the storm outside. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped them, a comforting embrace as they settled into their corner booth. How are you holding up? Alex asked, his eyes searching hers for answers she wasn't sure she could give. Emma hesitated, the weight of her family's betrayal a heavy cloak over her shoulders. I don't know, it's like everything I thought I knew was just gone. Alex nodded, his expression one of understanding tinged with something deeper. I get it, when you find out the people you trust have hidden sides, it feels like the ground's been pulled from under you. His words resonated with her, a resonance that spoke of shared pain and the scars left behind. And you? Emma ventured, her curiosity piqued by his earlier confession. Alex sighed, the sound a revelation of its own. There was a time when I was caught in a web of lies. I thought I was helping, but it turned out I was just another pawn. I left it all behind, but the shadows of those choices, they linger. His admission was a balm, an unexpected solace in the storm of her emotions. It's hard, isn't it, to trust again after being hurt? Yeah, it is, Alex admitted. But sometimes you have to take a leap of faith. Trust that not everyone is out to hurt you. Emma considered his words, the truth in them resonating with something deep inside her. I want to believe that I really do, and maybe I can believe in you. Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. In Alex, Emma saw a kindred spirit, a fellow traveler in the labyrinth of trust and betrayal. And perhaps, amidst the wreckage of broken promises, there was space for something new to grow. Outside, the storm raged on, a testament to the chaos of life and the beauty of finding calm within it. As they sat together, the murmur of the cafe around them, Emma felt a flicker of hope ignite within her chest. It was a small flame, but it was enough to guide her through the darkness. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing against Alex's. Thank you for being here, she whispered, the words a promise of their own. Alex's smile was warm, a beacon against the storm. Always, Emma, I'm here for you. And as the storm continued to rage outside, within the confines of the cafe, Emma found a moment of peace, a calm within the storm, a promise of brighter days ahead. Evening had descended with a gentler embrace than the tumultuous afternoon, casting the city in a soft, golden glow as the storm clouds departed. Emma found herself back at the Grand Astoria, its opulent halls now a maze of memories, both painful and promising. She walked alongside Alex, their footsteps echoing softly against the marble floors, each step taking them closer to the heart of truth. It was in the quiet corner of the hotel's library that Alex finally began to unravel the threads of his past. Emma, he started, his voice steady but tinged with vulnerability. I need you to understand why I did what I did. Emma met his gaze, the warmth of his eyes anchoring her amidst the uncertainty. She nodded, encouraging him to continue. When I first got involved with your family, it was because I believed in their vision, in what they stood for. But as I got closer, I realized there were forces at play, shadows that threatened to consume everything. His confession was like a light piercing through the fog of deception that had surrounded her. You mean Richard wasn't acting alone? Emma asked, her heart thudding with a mix of fear and curiosity. No, Alex replied, his expression solemn. Richard was a puppet, tangled in strings held by someone else, someone who knew how to manipulate the shadows to their advantage. Emma's mind raced, piecing together fragments of conversations and suspicious glances that had once seemed innocuous. Who? She pressed, her voice a whisper. A rival, someone who wanted nothing more than to see your family fall, to take what wasn't theirs to have, Alex revealed, his words a dagger of truth. Understanding dawned on Emma, illuminating the path forward. Then we need to stop them, whoever they are together, she declared, her resolve hardening. Alex nodded, a flicker of admiration in his eyes. I'd been gathering evidence, but I couldn't do it alone. I needed someone who could see the light even when surrounded by darkness. His words were a balm to her weary soul, a promise of partnership forged in the fires of adversity. And I needed someone I could trust, Emma admitted, her voice steady despite the storm that had raged within her. Their alliance was sealed with a shared glance, an unspoken vow to fight the shadows that had threatened to consume them. As they pored over documents, the library's warm glow cast their faces in soft relief, the light a symbol of their quest for clarity and justice. Together, they unearthed the evidence that had eluded them: emails, financial statements, hidden transactions, all pointing to the true architect of her family's downfall. The realization was both sobering and empowering. "It's time," Alex said, his voice filled with quiet determination. Emma nodded, her heart aligned with his in purpose. "Let's bring this to the light," she agreed, a fierce resolve igniting within her. As they left the library, the shadows seemed to retreat, yielding to the growing luminance of their shared mission. Emma felt a weight lift from her shoulders, replaced by the buoyant promise of redemption and new beginnings. The night air was crisp and clear, a perfect reflection of the clarity they had achieved. Walking side by side, Emma and Alex ventured into the night, united by a shared quest and an unbreakable bond. For the first time, Emma saw Alex not as a figure from her past, but as a trustworthy ally, a beacon guiding her through the tangled web of deceit. In the coming days, they would confront the true thief, restore her family's fortune, and reclaim the trust that had been shattered. But for now, under the starlit sky, they were content to embrace the truths they had unveiled, knowing that together, they could weather any storm. The evening was alive with a symphony of laughter and music, resonating through the opulent ballroom of the Grand Astoria Hotel. This time, it wasn't a distant dream, but a vivid reality, shaped by Emma's own hands. The event was a celebration of justice served, and a future reclaimed, and at its heart was the union of Emma and Alex. Emma glanced around the room, her gaze settling on familiar faces, family, friends, allies who had stood by them through the storm. The air was sweet with the scent of blooming lilies, their fragrance a testament to new beginnings. She smiled as she caught sight of her brother, his arm around their mother, both beaming with a happiness that at once seemed lost. In the center of the room stood a resplendent mirror, its surface polished to a gleaming finish. It had been a silent witness to the family's trials, a metaphor for shattered trust and subsequent healing. Now it reflected the joy and unity of the evening, a symbol of renewal and redemption. Emma felt Alex's presence before she saw him, a comforting warmth at her side. He approached with a quiet confidence, his eyes filled with a tenderness that made her heart flutter. "You did it," he murmured, his voice a gentle caress against the backdrop of jubilant revelry. "We did it," Emma corrected, meeting his gaze with a smile that reached her eyes. The months of uncertainty and heartache had woven a tapestry of strength and resilience between them, each thread a testament to the battles they had fought and won. As they moved to the center of the dance floor, the world faded away, leaving only the two of them. The music swelled, and they swayed in sync, their movements a silent conversation of promises made and futures shared. Emma leaned into Alex, her head resting against his shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, a comforting reminder of the life they were building together. "I never imagined I'd find peace in chaos," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible over the gentle strains of the orchestra. Alex's lips brushed her temple, a touch both electrifying and soothing. "Sometimes, chaos leads us to where we truly belong," he responded, his words a balm to her soul. Their dance was both an end and a beginning, a closing of chapters filled with deception, and a prelude to a story of love and unity. Around them the guests watched, their smiles reflecting the hope that had blossomed from adversity. In the corner, the mirror caught the light, its reflection capturing the essence of the evening, a tapestry of faces, of lives interwoven by shared experiences and newfound connections. As the night deepened, Emma and Alex stepped away from the dance floor, hand in hand. They paused by the mirror, their reflections a testament to their journey. Emma reached out, her fingertips grazing the cool surface, a silent vow to cherish the lessons of the past while embracing the promise of the future. Alex wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. "Ready to face whatever comes next?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with a mixture of mischief and certainty. Emma nodded, her heart light and full. "As long as it's with you," she replied, her voice carrying the weight of an unspoken promise. Together, they turned from the mirror, stepping into the night where the stars were bright and the air fresh with